Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Elizabeth Catherine. She's a certified hypnotherapist and Reiki master, and we'll learn from her about how healing oneself can ripple outward to heal others, offers tools for deep relaxation, personal transformation, and inner peace. We'll learn about how one can reconnect with themselves and contribute to a more compassionate world. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Elizabeth. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about self-healing. We'll talk about healing within and transforming the world. We'll talk about all this. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your story, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
So I have an art background. I have a bachelor's in fine art from Ringling College of Art and Design. But I started my spiritual studies, excuse me, pretty much from the time I was born. I was always sort of looking to connect with people, and I always really enjoyed that feeling of, even when you just connect with someone in the store, you know, you're checking out your clothes or whatever, and you have that moment of connection where you make each other laugh or something. I've always been sort of chasing that feeling of connection with others and that feeling of love that is between us. And so throughout the years, I pursued different spiritual studies. I studied just regular self-help for a while in college. I went on to study Tai Chi and Reiki, and then I did my hypnotherapy training, and then I studied past life regression with Brian Weiss. And every step I took along the way was transforming, and then my own personal journey along the way. I'm always contemplating my spiritual growth through all my ups and downs in life, and at each turn I'm growing and finding new ways to explore spirituality and my own self. And for a while I've been talking about this idea of, you know, fixing yourself so that you can, and by fixing I really mean just finding peace within, so that you can then turn that outward and find those connections more frequently and build those good feelings within yourself and within others. So.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. So, not a bad thing to think good about the world, to feel connected with the world. But then, is the world also worth connecting, or should we just keep connecting and the world keeps disconnecting? What I want to understand? Is it you are a utopian idea that you are talking about? I know what you are talking, but for the audience, I want to understand it through you, not what I understand, what I don't. So, Elizabeth, help us understand in that backdrop about all these things. We are all one, yeah. But actually, are we one?
Right. So, from my understanding, and I can only speak to my limited understanding, of course, but from my understanding, we are all one and we are not at the same time. It's a duality, right? So, yes, there's a lot of darkness in the world, of course. And yes, it's a utopian idea, right? And no, I don't actually believe we're going to achieve that in this lifetime, but I believe we can make a start at it. And I believe that eventually we can achieve that on this planet. I believe that's the ultimate goal, is for us to achieve this sort of peace together and within. But I also believe that we can make these steps now. We can plant the seeds now, and we can do as much as we can to grow that love between us. Even in the middle of all of this darkness and all of this hate and all of this tearing down of each other that we like to do. I believe that we can create these connections now, and they can start to grow. And the more love we share between us, and of course, I'm never preaching that you should be perfect and always be, you know, non-confrontational or whatever. I'm just saying, find those moments of connection and try to expand those. And don't worry about whatever negative traits you might have. or whatever faults you might have, or whatever negative interactions you might have. I'm not saying don't have all those, and I'm not saying that you should be perfect. I'm saying find the moments of connection and grow those. Instead of focusing on anything else that's going on, focus on the love you have with other people and the love you have within for yourself.
Right, Elizabeth. So when you say find those connections,
Mm-hmm.
what are those connections? Help us understand. It means, out of everyone,
Yeah.
there is a choice to be made. If I understand that correctly, help us understand about those
Right.
connections that we need to find.
So when you connect with someone in a good feeling, when you're sitting down having coffee with someone and you're just enjoying yourself and you're just noticing how good that feels to be with that person, focus on that feeling and let it grow. It'll naturally grow into a beautiful love between you and whoever it is and having that exchange with. And like I said, even if you're, shopping and checking out your groceries and you find a connection with someone, just enjoy it and allow it to grow and notice it. Because the more your brain focuses on something, the stronger those connections become. So if you're focusing and noticing and just paying attention to the love you share with other people, that is telling your brain, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to experience. You're truly creating your own experience in your mind. Not one single person on this planet is having the same experience, even if we had all the same situations, because we're creating with our own thoughts, we're creating those neural connections. And so we're creating our own reality. So if you're training your brain to focus on feelings of love and connection and the good feelings you have in your life, you're training your brain to say, this is something I want in my life. This is how I want my life to be. And so as you're creating a stronger connection in your own brain, you're going to see it more. You're going to start to notice over here, oh, look at that connection. That was very beautiful. Oh, that person smiled at me. I smiled back. It was a beautiful connection. And you're going to just start to notice those things. And then they're going to happen more and more. And then you're actually going to start to seek those out. And then that's when the real magic happens of spreading that love that you have, that we all have inside of us. The universe is, in my perspective and from my connections and the things that I've discovered in my own soul journey here on this planet and beyond, this love is universal. It is the thing that we are. And when you see it in someone else, you're just seeing the universe in them. You're seeing what we truly are and the energy that is present everywhere for us to connect to. It's spirituality, and we're just getting little glimpses of it in each other, which I think is beautiful.
Right, Elizabeth. So when you talk of connection and we want to, give that good feeling to the world so that it can have that ripple effect and, it gets carried forward. But nowadays, especially last few years, we are talking about self-love.
Yeah.
So, when we focus on ourselves or when we have to focus on ourselves, how do we calibrate that with the love for the connection and outer world? Because many a times it will be different than that. So help us understand how do we calibrate both these parts of the outside world as well as the self love? Because the world a lot of times it will want to take away from a lot of things, and you may want to give this very thing, but when somebody wants to snatch it away, then you don't want to give it. And that's the problem with the world at the moment, the way I see it. I am not a very optimistic person, but one has to be very practical. If you smile at someone, they will come back and either they will ask for something, or they will expect something, or they will spam you, scam you. Help us understand from that practical aspect, Elizabeth.
Yeah, this is actually something I like to talk about a lot because, a lot of people like to use you as a doormat if you're kind and generous. And people are often surprised with me because I'm kind and generous, but I have a limit. And I'm never going to be taken advantage of. I'm not going to let my kids be taken advantage of. I can be kind of the lion. And so it's a misconception a lot of people have that you should just be a doormat in order to be kind and loving. What I want people to understand is that love should start with yourself, And none of that will happen if it does, because you instantly see, you can connect with someone in earnest love and say, hi, how are you? You know, like, great. The minute they start to turn that on you and start to try to take advantage of you, it's like, okay, see you later. Have a nice day. You know, or it's, I didn't like that. That made me feel uncomfortable. You learn to speak your truth. You learn to stand in your own power. That doesn't mean that you're not loving. That means that you're loving the truth. You're loving yourself and you're loving spirituality. Because in my belief, true spirituality is not just being a doormat, as I said, it's speaking who you are at all times. It's being your true self. And it's standing in your own power and not letting people take advantage of you just because in the name of being kind. That's not kind. And this is something that maybe is controversial for people to hear, but I don't think we're doing the world any good when we turn the other cheek. When we say, oh, you took advantage of me once, I'm going to turn away and not say anything and just forgive you and move on. What are they learning? They're not learning from that. They're not growing from that. We're not helping the world become a better place when we do that. I'm a huge advocate, and I do it myself, and I'm not a person with zero enemies because of this. But if somebody does something that I feel was wrong or hurtful towards me or someone else, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say, that made me uncomfortable. That wasn't the right course of action in my point of view. And they're welcome to have their own opinion about it. But I'm never going to let someone take advantage of me, my kids, my family, or my friends without saying something about it. I feel that's how we grow as a society, is by saying things to each other. If we're just sitting there silent and brooding, the person doesn't have the effect of, this was not appropriate. This made me feel like I was taken advantage of.
Absolutely, absolutely. A little bit of on this, and then we'll move to the solution part. So one thing is that everything has a, is not infinite. It is finite. Even your kindness, even your patience, your tolerance, your niceness, when people start. So if you give it to the wrong people, then you get demotivated, as well as your, treasure gets depleted. The right people, the real people, they get left far behind. How do we, as we go along our life, to be very good people, try to keep on experimenting, if I may say, that, okay, this person deserves it. And still, how do we protect that treasure so that finally it reaches to the right people? We finally reach to the right connections. Is there a way one can do it, or any red flags or white flags, green flags, so that we reach to the right connections?
Yeah, you are asking some challenging questions. I love this. There are definitely red flags and green flags and yellow flags, as they say, right? For all of this. I think and it's challenging because you want to stand in a place of love. And my sort of motto, back when here in the US, maybe 9 years ago, we had the Women's March, and this was this big rally, right, where women were standing for our rights here in the US. And I was never really a protester because I always like to stand for things, not against things. But I felt like it was really important to go. And so the sign I wrote kind of has become my motto, and it's be brave and stand for love. And for me, that means being brave and putting yourself out there after you've been hurt and taking those risks on and learning to recognize the minute someone's taking advantage of you. Red flags would be things like people being controlling. When you have that gut feeling like, oh, I don't want to tell this person this thing. This happens to me often where, oh, I don't want to tell this person that I'm not going to continue with these piano lessons for my son because they're going to, fall off a cliff if I do. I know they're going to react badly. That's a red flag. When you're afraid to tell someone something because of the way they're going to react, and when it's something that you shouldn't be afraid to tell them. I mean, of course, if you're going to tell someone something that you did wrong on them, you're going to be nervous, but I'm saying more like something simple, like, oh, I'm going to host my podcast in a different server, something like that. You should be able to have these conversations without that feeling of, ooh, they're going to fall off a cliff if I tell them this. So I have to do it gently and do it kindly. And I'm not saying these people aren't deserving of love and respect. I think give them your love and respect, but also say, this isn't for me, and stand your ground. And they'll fight you on it. When it's that type of person, they do rise up and sort of come at you, in a negative way. And it doesn't feel good. But keep reiterating to yourself and for me, this is what I do. I'll read if there's emails or texts or things or conversations, I just go over them until I really see what the truth is. Because for me, I'm always trying to make sure I'm not actually causing harm, because they will tell you that, oh, you've hurt me so much. And it's manipulation tactics. And so for me, what I do is I just clear my own conscience first. And then I do sort of an energetic letting go of, and clearing them out. And I'll surround myself with sort of a bubble, and I'll just imagine like things bouncing off of it, or whatever it is that helps for you. Or I'll say something I love to do is I say, I'll focus on the person and I would just send them love. And I say, I only accept love from you. And that does help shift the narrative, because my mind's going to get involved in that cattiness too. If someone's coming at me with a cattiness or an argument, my mind wants to go there and combat it and prove to myself how I'm right and they're wrong. But I just try to cut it off at some point. Maybe I'll indulge myself for a minute and let it play out. It's human nature. But then I just sort of, if I do this where I say, I only accept love from you, and I only have love for you, and I actually focus on the things I love about them and send them love, it sort of ends the whole thing. And I'm not going to like bring them back into my life. It doesn't mean I can't still be in a place of love with them and forgiveness, which is a benefit to me. It just means we're done, and I respect you. Move on with your life. I'll move on with mine, and we'll stay in a space of mutual respect, or maybe not mutual, but at least from my side.
Absolutely, absolutely. You put it very, very well, Elizabeth. Especially, the point that when you are afraid of telling something about a situation that you feel, and you are afraid of the other person's reaction,
Mm-hmm.
that is a big red flag, and that is one
Yeah.
has to be very, because people generally avoid conflict, and that is why one has to keep quiet to avoid conflict with other person. Then you start, okay, that person is not giving you that sort of a confidence, and that is where you need to protect it. The world is made up of all sort of people, and that is where you are carrying a treasure, but that great treasure you must ensure that it doesn't get looted, but rather it is distributed to the right people who will further distribute it. That is what you talk about. So let's talk about the solutions. How do we do that? What is the best way, and where does this hypnotherapy and spiritualism come into?
So what I found is the first thing we have to start with is building up a sense of love and confidence for ourselves and respect, because a lot of us are the doormat. I see a lot of people out there who have good hearts and who want to do good things for the world and truly are doing good things for the world. But then at the same time, they can really let people walk all over them. And then you get depleted, and then you eventually get fed up and you say, I'm out. This love garbage is not for me because I've been hurt too many times. And I completely understand that point of view. And I feel that if you have a strong sense of self-love and self-confidence, you won't let that happen. You'll naturally see the red flags, and you'll say, ooh, this is not for me. But you're going to miss red flags, of course. I miss them all the time. And then people take me by surprise, and I say, oh, you know what? I knew that when you did that thing, I should have cut it off there, and I didn't. So that's on me. But for me, building that self-confidence and that self-love comes from connecting to spirituality. And I do that a lot in my hypnotherapy and my hypnosis sessions with people, is connecting you to that feeling of love that's out there in the universe for us, that spiritual love that's running through each one of us. It is who we are at our core. And when we connect to it, it's almost like when you see how good it can be, you understand what you shouldn't have. You understand how it shouldn't be. You understand how you should be treated. So in most of my sessions and on my podcast, we go into self-hypnosis sessions where we're connecting with spirituality and spiritual love in different ways over and over and over again, because everybody's different and because our minds get bored and we need new experiences. And then we're also building, changing belief patterns. So finding negative beliefs that you have about yourself or about a situation or about something, a goal you want to have in your life, and changing those to a positive belief. Because when you're in hypnosis, you're capable of sort of forming those neural pathways we talked about, and you're experiencing things in hypnosis as if they're as real as what you're experiencing in real life. So imagine if you can create situations for yourself and allow those situations to feel so real that they're training your brain how to function for you. So what you're really doing is you're creating a situation, showing your brain, this is what I want my life to look like. This is how I want to feel. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to do with my life. And then your brain is creating those connections to help you achieve that and to help that align with your life. It's really magic, but it's not. It's science,
Absolutely, absolutely, Elizabeth. I want uh, to understand you, to help people understand the way you want them to understand hypnosis. Because see, it sounds like some people will think I will train my brain that I am this. That is delusion. And some people
Right.
will say I am this, that I will do this. That is flights of fancy. And there is this word called manifestation. People will think I will become this, and the universe will come and give me on my, in a platter to me. And this is all depending on individual state of mind, understanding of everything else. And and some stupid people can understand it very differently. That's why I use the word delusional as well as flights of fancy. How
Right.
do you want them to understand, and everyone else about hypnosis, using it the right kind of way, and to train your brain for that and not for something negative or delusional?
Right. So there's a few rules with hypnosis, first of all. Your brain is not going to, you can't achieve what you can't conceive. So if you don't truly believe you can achieve a certain goal, your brain will not accept the suggestion. You can't even get there. So, well, like I say, if you want $1 million, great, you can do that. But you start with something you believe you can achieve. So if you only believe you can get $500 extra next week in the bank or next month, that's where you start. You start with what your brain believes it can achieve. And the more success you have with making those neural connections and creating belief systems for yourself, the more success you'll have hiring that goal, right? I hate the word manifestation. I use it sometimes because there's not a better word, but it's because people think that you are going to, like we had The Secret, right? That book that came out about manifestation. And it kind of gave you this idea. Whereas I think that a lot of those people in there do use manifestation and they use it well. But the way it conveyed it was sort of like you just think a thought and you change your thought and you just grab the remote, flip on the TV, and it's going to come. And that's not what's really happening. What's happening is you're creating neural pathways for your brain and you're creating new belief systems. And then your brain is then seeking things out, like what we said with love. The more that you have those strong neural pathways, the more your brain is going to say, okay, I'm going to have $500 extra this month. And then you might, once you get that suggestion implanted in your brain, you'll naturally start to look for ways where money might come in. And then I also believe there's a spiritual component to it where the universe meets your effort. You're making an effort to change. And I think we've all probably experienced this in our lives. You're making an effort to change and opportunities come your way. And I think there's two things going on there. Opportunities are coming your way and you're recognizing the opportunities because you've created those neural pathways to make that happen. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed, Elizabeth. And that is what my last question is. When do you come into the picture? Where does hypnosis, where does all these things that you talk about come into the picture and help people? Who is your services for?
So my services are literally for anybody, but the people that tend to come to me are people who are looking for internal peace, most likely. I've worked with people on all sorts of subjects, but the majority is peace within themselves. And what we do is a lot of hypnotherapy. We'll do if we're doing a private session, it's a long intake. We discover all about your dreams, your goals. We will probably write a positive affirmation for you to use in the session and then to continue using. And then we will start to work on changing beliefs that are unhealthy or creating new beliefs that are, a goal you want to set for your life. Envisioning your life exactly how you want it, because I really believe we create our own lives. We're truly the masters of our own little universe, and it's all up in our minds. And I help people to achieve the things that they want to achieve by using the power that you have within your own mind. And in my podcast, which is what my main focus is right now, because I feel that's how I can help the most people all at once and sort of build an audience, because I would love to reach people on a bigger scale. And so what we do a lot in the podcast is we do a lot of going internal, a lot of intuitive reading, a lot of self-discovery, and general belief change, all using the techniques that we've talked about here, and getting your mind nice and quiet. And at the very least, you get so relaxed and you wake up or not wake up, but you come out of it with a feeling of beautiful peace and relaxation.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's much to learn from you, Elizabeth, about all this. And I'm sure a lot of people will want to connect with you, learn more from you, about you, also learn from your podcast. What's the best way for them to do so?
So my podcast is Self-Hypnosis for Healing, Elizabeth Catherine. And my website is elizabethcatherine.com, Catherine with a C. You can find the podcast there, and you can also find about workshops and retreats that I have upcoming, and book sessions.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. That was